I'm Dr. Timothy O'Donnell, and I welcome you to this Roman pilgrimage where we are examining the Lenten stational churches of Rome. Today we will be going to a very interesting church. It'll take us outside the walls of the ancient city as we go to San Lorenzo Fiore le Moura, St. Lawrence, outside the walls. This basilica, which we're visiting on this Sunday in Lent, is the actual site where St. Lawrence himself, along with St. Stephen, happens to be buried. This visit to the tomb on a Sunday of such a great saint is important for us, and the Church urges us at this time to reflect upon the importance of praying for the dead. Praying for the dead is a great act of charity. A lot of times today, if you go to a funeral, you'll often be surprised when you'll find that there's a great eulogy given to the person who has died, almost as if you're witnessing a canonization. The traditional wisdom of the Church urges us to avoid such things, particularly at funeral masses. And when we think of the dead, recognize the fact that human nature being what it is, there are a lot of imperfections in every individual human being. And so the Church, in her maternal solicitude, urges us to pray for the dead. In the wake of the Second Vatican Council, some people thought that the Church had dropped her doctrine of purgatory. Nothing could be further from the truth. And it's clearly stated and reaffirmed once again in the Catholic Catechism. So as we go to the tomb of the martyr St. Lawrence, we think also of the countless dead who were buried nearby. The ancient Roman cemetery of Campo Verano, where all of the Romans were buried down through the centuries, is frequently visited, particularly on All Souls' Day, by the Roman faithful, where they pray for their beloved dead. We also, in imitation of them, should call to mind during this Lenten season, as a special act of charity, our beloved departed, those who've gone on. Through our prayers, we can lessen the time that they spend in purgatory, hoping that through our prayers they can leave behind those flames of purgatory and hasten to the day when they will be perfectly united with their loving Lord. As we go outside the walls of the ancient city to the Church of San Lorenzo, let us think of all our loved ones who have gone on to be with the Lord, and let us pray with fervent hearts during this Lenten season that they may be one with Him. So let us go to the Church of San Lorenzo Fiore le Moura. This is one of the most fascinating churches, architecturally and historically. It is one of the 7 great ancient basilicas of Rome that were part of the famous medieval pilgrimage. It is also one of the most beautiful and popular, certainly, with the native Romans. This is probable because most of their relatives are buried in the nearby cemetery. The basilica, which is dedicated to St. Lawrence the Deacon and Martyr, was roasted alive on a gridiron in the year 258 and was buried in what was called the Argo Verano along the Via Tiburtina. The use of this particular basilica as a stational church during Lent can be traced back to the 4th century. St. Lawrence was declared to be a patriarchal basilica by Pope Leo the Great, who reigned as pontiff from 440 to 461, and this was assigned as the Roman residence for the Patriarch of Jerusalem. The present church is of great interest because it is actually composed of 3 originally distinct buildings. The western half, which forms the present nave, is the basilica that was built by Pope Sixtus III, who reigned from 432 to 440. It is a church of great antiquity. When one enters the church, this sense of stepping back into the ancient times can be an overwhelming experience. The eastern half, which is presently serving as the chancel, was the basilica that was built by Pope Pelagius II, who reigned from 579 to 590. This basilica originally had faced to the east. In this part of the church, there are 10 beautiful fluted marble columns with Corinthian capitals. These support the architrave, which is made of delicate Roman carving, obviously taken from a variety of ancient Roman buildings. They are surprisingly disparate. The original tomb had a small oratory built over it, which was the gift of the Emperor Constantine after freedom had been granted to the church. Pope Honorius III, who reigned from 1216 to 1227, ended up demolishing the two apse walls and united the ends of the nave in order to form one single basilica, with the old confession over the tomb of the martyr in the middle. He also ended up raising the level of the Pelagian basilica so that the chancel now appears to have a full crypt. In this church, there are a number of interesting things that we should take note of. First of all, on the outside, we have the beautiful Romanesque campanelle, or bell tower. There is also a quite lovely mosaic frieze of the portico, which dates back to the 13th century. This portico is supported by 6 rather delicate Ionic columns. Also in this portico, we can see remains of the sarcophagus which once held the mortal remains of Pope Damasus II. Also, we can see the tomb of Alcide de Gaspari, who died in 1954, the great Italian statesman. This work was done by Manzu. In the nave on the left is the entrance to the ancient catacomb of Saint Syriaca. This is the same Saint Syriaca who had a home that was the site of eventually the Church of Santa Maria in Donica. As we enter the nave, we see that there are 22 huge granite columns with Ionic capitals, which support the architrave, which were taken from various buildings dating back to classical antiquity. There are also a number of marvelous inscriptions which have been taken from the catacombs, which can be visited and viewed. These all bear witness to the ancient site and also to the many truths of the Catholic faith as professed by the Christian community in Rome. These can be approached on the right through the sacristy. Here one can enter into a cloister which dates back to the 12th century. You are surrounded here by fragments of the catacombs which bear witness to the faith of the early Christians. In the chancel, we can also notice the 6th century mosaic on the triumphal arch, which depicts Pope Pelagius offering the church. There is also a beautiful episcopal throne and a mosaic which date back to the 3rd century. Below this arch, there was also a slab, which according to tradition was stained with the blood of St. Lawrence. And it is very possible that the tortured remains of the great saint rested on this slab prior to his burial. Below the main altar lie the mortal remains of St. Lawrence. Pope Pelagius eventually also succeeded in bringing the mortal remains of St. Stephen. It is reported when St. Stephen's relics were placed next to Lawrence, the relics of St. Lawrence shifted in the tomb to give St. Stephen the place of honor, since he was the first proto-martyr. This church and the vicinity was severely damaged during the Second World War by Allied airstrikes on July 19th in 1943. They were trying to strike the nearby railway station, but also ended up striking this church as well. There is a beautiful bronze sculpture of Pius XII outside this basilica, which recalls the visit of Pope Pius, along with Monsignor Montini, the future Pope Paul VI. This was the worst of the air raids to strike the city of Rome.